الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وآله وصحبه أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, my dear children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last week I mentioned a parable from Surah Yunus, chapter 10, Jonah, chapter 10, the cave, chapter 18, and the ayah, chapter 57, regarding the similitude of this life, the present life, al-hayat al-dunya, compared to the hereafter. And what I discovered, that at the end of each one, there is a message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directing us towards the hereafter. How can we utilize whatever we have been given in this life to maximize the benefits in the hereafter? So I decided to share with you these three interesting instructions. Starting with Surah Yunus, chapter 10, Jonah, verse 25. After Allah gave the parable, He said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. Allah calls to the home of peace, Dar es-Salam. Dar es-Salam is one of the names of the hereafter. Dar, the home, as-Salam, peace, home of peace. Allah calls to the home of peace. He guides whom He pleases to a way that is straight. So in contrast with the temporary or ephemeral and uncertain pleasures of this material life, there is a higher life to which Allah is always calling. It is called the home of peace, Dar es-Salam. For there is no fear, nor disappointment, nor sorrow there. And all are called, and those will be chosen who have sought not material advantages, but the good pleasure of Allah. If you seek the good pleasure of Allah, you will get to Dar es-Salam. So remember the name Dar es-Salam. It's one of the attributes of the hereafter. In Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us an advice by saying, after again He gave the parable of this life compared to the hereafter, He said in verse 46, المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا. Wealth and sons are the attractions, the allurements of this life, of this world, of the life of this world. والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أمر. So the new term here is الباقيات الصالحات. And the other one was Dar es-Salam. Here الباقيات الصالحات. Good deeds which will last, good deeds which will prevail, good deeds which will benefit you not only in this life but in the hereafter as well. وَالْبَاقِيَاتُ الصَّالِحَاتُ, good deeds are best in the sight of your Lord as rewards and best as the foundation for hopes. You hope when you do something good, when you seek the pleasure of Allah, when you are trying to please only Allah when you do it, when you are not trying to gain fame or name or achieve any material gains, then the reward will be there inshallah. So other things are fleeting, but good deeds have a lasting value in the sight of Allah. They are best as or for rewards in two ways. They flow from us by the grace of Allah and are themselves rewards for our faith. Two, they become the foundation of our hopes for the highest rewards in the hereafter. Okay, now we go now to the last one in Surah Al-Hadid, chapter 57. And again, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the parable of this life, He said, سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسله. Okay, fine. We race with each other in this life to achieve material gains. We race with each other, we compete with each other because we want a fame or name. But Allah is saying, race towards forgiveness from your Lord. Let the race be towards forgiveness. Let the race be towards the hereafter. It will be a very long way to run, a very long race. It's not in the Olympic Village in Stratford. It's going to be a long way to run up there. So remember, we have to race not in accumulating wealth, not in competing with each other in this life. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر. التكاثر means multiplication and everything. ألهاكم means made you so busy. You became so busy competing with each other regarding material gains in this life, and the result is death came to you without you realizing it. Suddenly, death came to you while you are still competing with each other regarding material gains, not regarding or seeking the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let me move now to the parables of today. I'm going to start from Surah Ar-Ra'd, chapter 13. Who can tell me what's the meaning of Ar-Ra'd in Arabic? Thunder. Ar-Ra'd. Yes? And what is Al-Barq? Lightning. Lightning. So they both come together. Which one comes first? Lightning. Why does the lightning come first to us before we hear a ra'd? The speed of the light. The speed of the light. You see the light and then you hear. Yes? Right. So this is a whole chapter in the Quran, chapter 13, known as a ra'd. My goodness, it frightens me actually when you think about a ra'd, and it's so powerful. Now let's look at, study this parable. It's so beautiful. How many people here ever had a cup of cappuccino? Can I see a show of hands? Cup of cappuccino. Thank you. What is on the top of the coffee? Froth. Excellent. Froth. Froth. So I paid £2.20. And you know, I looked at, and what I drank at the bottom was that little. Froth. What is another word of froth? Foam. Scum. Yes? Remember the word. In Arabic, it's called what? Who can tell me the word in Arabic? Az-zabad, not az-zubad. Az-zabad. Az-zabad. Az-zubad, when you have something which is good. Zubad al-hadid. Inama az-zabad with fatha is something rubbish. Az-zabad. Az-zabad. Remember? Rubbish. Yes, rubbish. Rubbish. You are buying rubbish. Never to buy cappuccino anymore, Rafiq. Never. 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 Espresso is the best. Okay. So az-zabad. Remember az-zabad. Now, have you ever seen a blacksmith or a goldsmith melting iron or gold? I saw it. I saw it in workshops in Egypt and all the Cairo bazaars. You go there, he is actually melting. He's going to make a horseshoe, or going to make a utensil, going to make actually tools. He's making what we call jewelry, yeah, you know the other things you use for when you try to yes, yeah. So what do you see there? He has like a pot, we call it bautaqa in Arabic, bautaqa or a pot, crucible, and he is melting the iron. What do you see on the surface? Huh? Rubbish. All the rubbish. Correct? All the rubbish will come on the top there. So the gold is being purified by melting it, and then on the top you have this is scum. This is the parable which we are going to talk about now. What is the difference between al-haqq wal-batil? What is al-haqq? The truth. The truth, and the batil, falsehood. Falsehood. أما الزبد فيذهب جفاء. That's the parable will end like that. وأما ما ينفع الناس فيمكث في الأرض. The froth, the zabad, the foam, the scum will always go, will always disappear. But what will benefit people will remain in the earth. Yes? And even when you see rain coming down, creating channels, rivers, and the water is going so fast, and now it is carrying the foam on top of it, and it gives you a good show, but it doesn't last. It never lasts. In Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17, verse 81, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Say, the truth has come. The truth has come. وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ. And al-batil must perish, must go. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Why? Because it is bound to perish. This is its false nature. One of the attributes of Allah is al-haqq. And all what they worship besides Him are باطل. Yes? So truth has now arrived and falsehood perished. For falsehood is by its nature bound to perish. Now let's read the parable, let's read the verses, and let's read the footnotes and try to reflect that when some of us are tested in life with a hard test, a hard calamity, this is like melting the ore or the gold, and this person will come out of this test so strong, so pure, and all the rubbish will go away, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أنزل من السماء ماء فسالت أودية بقدرها فاحتمل السيل زبدا رابيا ومما يوقدون عليه في النار ابتغاء حلية أو متاع زبد مثله كذلك يضرب الله الحق والباطل فأما الزبد فيذهب جفاء وأما ما ينفع الناس فيمكث في الأرض كذلك يضرب الله الأمثال. This is verse 17, chapter 13. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful parable. He sends down water from the skies. He, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The stream carries on its surface a growing layer of froth. It continues to grow. Like the froth that appears when people melt metals in the fire to make ornaments and tools. In this way, Allah illustrates truth and falsehood. The froth disappears, but what is of benefit to man stays behind. This is how Allah makes illustrations. This is how Allah sets forth parables. This verse is full of parables. Number one, it is Allah who sends rain and sends it to all. To everybody. It's not restricted. See how it flows in different channels according to their capacities. Some are sluggish, some have a swift current. Some form great rivers and irrigate wide tracts of country. Some are clear crystal streams, perhaps in hilly tracts, with beds of clean pebbles which you can see through the water. Some produce delicious edible fish, and some are infested by crocodiles or injurious monsters. And there are degrees and degrees among brooks, streams, lakes, rivers, and seas. Where is the parable then? Listen to this. So with the rain of Allah's mercy and the knowledge and wisdom and guidance which He sends. So when He sends His guidance, His mercy, each one of us can receive it, but we will receive it differently. And the benefit will be different from one person to the other. All can receive it. Different ones will respond according to their capacities. Could you please move forward, please? Move forward. There's plenty of space there and a lot of people standing there. Number two, in the physical world, water is pure and beneficial. But froth and scum will gather according to local conditions. As the floods will carry off, as the floods will carry off the scum and purify the water, so will the flood of Allah's spiritual mercy carry away our spiritual scum and purify the water. Thirdly, the froth may make a greater show on the surface, but it will not last. So will there be frothy knowledge, which will disappear, but Allah's truth will endure. In continuation of the last note, the fourth parable is that of metal ores. The ore is full of baser admixture, but the fire will separate the gold from the dross for ornaments, or some metal of household utility with which you make everyday utensils, which the fire will separate from admixtures which you do not want. So the fire of Allah's test, either by adversity or by affluence, will search out the true metal in us and reject the dross. It will show us what is valuable or what is useful. All sorts of scum and vanity which we collect and miscall knowledge. So I hope this parable is very clear to all of us. It is so beautiful. It might be a good idea when you go home today, please, when you go home today, try to sit with your family and read only one verse. The Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Deliver on my behalf even one single verse. Today I want you to go home and read verse 17, chapter 13, the lightning, the thunder, and try to understand the parables and read the footnotes in Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Welcome home. Welcome. How was your, alhamdulillah, I hope it was successful, inshallah. Now let me move now to another parable. I'm going to go to Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18. We heard this story before so many times, but the idea is to learn the wisdom behind the parable. The story is about two friends, two men. Maybe they were classmates, maybe they are neighbors. Maybe they have never seen each other for a long, long time. Went to school together, studied together, then life separated them. One became so rich, and one is still struggling in life. Then they met, and the rich one is so arrogant, and he wanted to boast and show off his wealth to his older classmate who was so poor. Maybe the older classmate, the poor one, was righteous all his life. Maybe he always prayed. Maybe he always behaved himself, and the other one never. And now there is a challenge, as if he is saying to him, look, what did you benefit out of all your prayers and all your fast, all your charity? You are still poor, struggling to help your family. Look at me. Look at my wealth. Look at my garden. Look at my supporters. Look how many children I have. This is the story in a nutshell. And then the nice man, he reminded this man of his creator. He reminded him that whatever good he has is not because of his hard work. It is because of the help and the support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He rubbished this completely, and he claimed that his garden, his wealth will never be wiped off. It will always be there. And not only that, if there will be a day of judgment, I'm sure I have something better than it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent punishment from heaven, which destroyed his wealth completely, and he had nobody to support him or to even to protect him against the wrath of Allah. So we are going to read the verses one by one, analyze them, and try to understand the words chosen in each verse. Starts like that. وَاضْرِبْ لَهُمْ. It's a command to the Prophet ﷺ. O Muhammad, tell them the story, give them a parable, tell them a similitude of رجلين, two men. جعلنا لأحدهما جنتين من أعناب وحففناهما بنخل وجعلنا بينهما زرعا. To one of them we have given two gardens. Listen very carefully to the description of the two gardens, because they claim this is the best in agriculture, this is the best design of any garden, any farm. Two gardens, two farms of vine. So you had grapes in this side and this side. وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ. We surrounded them with date palms. I want you to imagine the grapes, the date palms surrounding the whole area. And in between the grapes, وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. There were some vegetation, maybe crops of wheat, barley, corn, maize, whatever. كِلْتَا الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. Each of the two gardens brought forth its produce and failed not in the least therein. Were so fertile. وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهْرًا. And we made a river to gush. Fajjara, gush. So the river, the source of the river was not a glacier and a mountain, was not the result of water coming from a lake. No. within the farm itself, the water was flowing from the farm itself. Gush from the middle, in the middle of the farm. So, if you draw a picture, you will see a river flowing in the middle. No source of water from outside. It has its own source. Surrounded by vegetation, corn, maize, wheat, whatever. Surrounded by vine. And the whole thing is surrounded by palm trees. Beautiful. And they're all producing. So now he enters the garden. وَكَانَ لَهُ ثَمَرٌ. The produce was abundant. So now he's comparing himself to his friend. أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. I have more property than you, I have more wealth than you, and I have more supporters than you. Oh my goodness, why is that? Why do you hurt my feelings when I'm a poor person? Why? What is the point? You know, when we were colleagues, went to the same school, maybe, why do you hurt my feelings? Here is a simple parable of the contrast between two men. One was proud, arrogant, and forgot that what he had was from Allah by way of a trust and a trial in this life. The other boasted of nothing. His trust was in Allah. The worldly wealth of the first was destroyed and he had nothing left. The second was the happier in the end. So the two men began to compare notes. The arrogant one was puffed up with his positions, his income, and his large family and following, and thought in his self-complacency that it would last forever. And this is the problem of all rulers and leaders in our countries. They think they will last forever. Unfortunately, they don't know it's Allah who gives them the power, and it's Allah who stripped it from of them. He was also wrong in looking down on his companion, who, though less affluent, was the better man of the two. وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. He entered his garden while he wronged his own soul. He wronged himself. وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. So the way he entered his garden with his pride, the way he entered his farm with his pride and arrogance, was a form of wronging his own soul. قال ما أظن أن تبيد هذه. I don't believe that this is going to perish. No way. It was not wealth that ruined him, but the attitude of his mind. He was unjust, not so much to his neighbor as to his own soul. In his love of the material, he forgot or openly defied the spiritual. He took his companion with him to impress him with his own importance, but the companion was unmoved. You see, some people in the story of Qarun, in Surah Al-Qasas, Qarun from the family of Musa, or from the Qawm, from the people of Musa. He was so rich, he was so wealthy, and when he paraded in the streets of Egypt, the people gathered and looked at his wealth and they said, يَا لَيْتَ لَنَا مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ قَارُونَ إِنَّهُ لَذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. We wish we had the same like Qarun. Surely he is so lucky. But this man was not moved. This man did not even wish to have something similar to his older classmate or his neighbor. So the companion was unmoved. Then he continued in his arrogance. وَمَا أَظُنُّ السَّاعَةَ قَائِمَةً وَلَئِنْ رُدِدتُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. I don't think the hour even is going to come. And by the way, if it happens to come, I will have something better. Look at the arrogance. Here comes out the grasping spirit of the materialist. In his mind, better means more wealth and more power, of the kind he was enjoying in this life. Although in reality, even what he had rested on hollow foundations and was doomed to perish and bring him down with it. So now the poor man is going to respond. أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا. Do you disbelieve in the one who created you from dust and then from sperm and then he made you a man or fashioned you into a man? I mean, it's an interesting question. He's bringing him back to his origin. Dust, sperm, and a human being. لكنه والله ربي ولا أشرك بربي أحد. But Allah is my Lord and I will never associate any partners with Allah in any form. Then he gave him an advice. And the advice he gave him is not only to him, it's all of us here. To every one of us. Sometimes you see something so beautiful. You go and visit, you see your own children growing up in front of your eyes. Okay? What should you say? ما شاء الله. Remember this, please. ما شاء الله. لا قوة إلا بالله. ما شاء الله. Always remember this. You enter your friend's house, which is so beautiful. You say, ما شاء الله. لا قوة إلا بالله. You see something you achieved yourself. Something so good you achieved yourself. You say, ما شاء الله. لا قوة إلا بالله. What is the meaning of ما شاء الله and what's the meaning of لا قوة إلا بالله?
Goodness done through Allah.
ما شاء الله. Whatever, by God's willing, whatever Allah have willed will happen. So what I see in front of my eyes here is the result of Allah's will, not the result of your hard work, not the result of your own personal achievement. What I'm seeing, you see a lot of properties in the Middle East. They write on the entrance of the building, ما شاء الله, because they feel it protects from the evil eye. But when you look at something and you say ما شاء الله, it shows two things. Number one, absolute submission. You are submitting yourself. Number two, there is no jealousy in your heart. You are not jealous that your brother or your neighbor or your friend has achieved something which you couldn't achieve. And at the same time, it protects your property and your children from the evil eye, from envy. When I see my grandchildren growing up in front of my eyes or succeeding in their education or achieve, and I say, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Okay? So do you understand the meaning of MashaAllah? Whatever Allah wills will happen. That was the result of Allah's will. What is being achieved is due to Allah's permission and not due to your own efforts. لا قوة إلا بالله. What is لا قوة إلا بالله? قوة means what? Power, strength. Power and can only come from Allah. Yes? So the friend is advising. I love this because number one, the wealth did not impress this poor man at all. In the story of Qarun, as I said earlier, everybody was wishing to have the same. And when Qarun was destroyed, fully destroyed in front of their eyes, they said, oh my goodness, alhamdulillah that we had nothing like him, otherwise we would have been destroyed like him. So here, it didn't move him. He looked into the garden, into the wealth, and he looked at it and he said, my brother, wouldn't be, firstly, do you disbelieve in the one who created you from dust, then sperm, then he made you into a full human being? Instead of being so arrogant, why don't you, when you walk in, you say, MashaAllah, la quwwata illa billah? Why did you not, as you went into your garden, say, Allah's will be done? This is God's will. There is no power except from Allah. There is no power but from Allah. If you see me less than you in wealth and children, who knows? And then the challenge comes here now. The challenge comes here. The threat. فَعَسَى رَبِّي, my Lord, may أن يؤتيني خيرا من جنتك. Who knows? My Lord may give me something better than your two gardens. ويرسل عليها حسبانا من السماء. And you will send on your garden thunderbolts by way of reckoning from heaven. فتصبح صعيدا زلقا. Slippery sand, to become slippery sand. He gave him an advice, then he's giving him a warning. He could have listened and he could have said, okay, my brother, I'll say I'm sorry, I'll say MashaAllah, and I'll say La quwwata illa billah, and I'll be good. But he didn't. He continued on his boasting and showing off. فتصبح صعيدا زلقا. It will become so slippery, a non-fertile soil. أو يصبح ماؤها غورا فلن تستطيع له طلبا. Or the water will go so deep, and this shows you the water was not coming from a mountain or a glacier. أو يصبح ماؤها غورا. The water can go so deep. When you have an earthquake, what happened? The earth will open and the water will go so down so you cannot access it anymore. Finish. Gone. خلاص. فلن تستطيع له طلبا. Then you will not be able to get it, to acquire it. The companion's argument divides itself into 5 parts. He remonstrates against the proud man denying Allah. He, from his own spiritual experience, proclaimed that Allah is one and that He is good. He points out to him the better way of enjoying Allah's gifts with gratitude to Him. He expresses contentment and satisfaction in Allah's dealing with him. He gives a warning of the fleeting nature of this world's goods and the certainty of Allah's punishment for inordinate vanity. What happened? Immediately on the spot, the farm was completely destroyed, fully destroyed, finished. Because he did not change his nature. How did he express his remorse, or not remorse even, his sorrow? وَأُحِيطَ بِثَمْرٍ. أُحِيطَ بِثَمْرٍ means it was encompassed from every direction. Ruin encompassed it from every direction. And the water went so deep. And he lost everything in front of his eyes. فأصبح يقلب كفيه على ما أنفق فيها وهي خاوية على عروشها. In Arabic, this, if you keep doing your hands like that, or you do your hands like that, it's a symbol of خلاص, loss, regret. Okay? Oh my goodness, what happened? You do like that. Either like that, يقلب كفيه, either this way or that way. ويقول يا ليتني لم أشرك بربي أحدا. Would I had never associated any partners with Allah in any form, but he had no one to help him, and he was not going to be helped. The only protection comes from Allah. He gives the best rewards and the best outcome. ولم تكن له فئة ينصرونه من دون الله وما كان منتصرا. So today I mentioned the parables I mentioned today. One was regarding the froth and the metal or the gold which remains for your benefit, and the same with the water. And this is the parable regarding al-haq wal-batil, the truth and the falsehood. And when Allah tests us with something like a fiery calamity, and it will show the real man inside when he comes out of such calamity. And then we mentioned the parable of the 2 companions who used to be together most of their lives, and then one became so rich, one is so poor, and what happened between them. That was in Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, and I started today from verse 32 until verse 44. So again, make an effort, please, when you go home to study this thing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Inshallah, next Monday I'm leaving for Hajj, inshallah. So I want you please to forgive me if I have said or